Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab for more stories. Now let's begin this one. Dorian Martin had built his life on precision. Every angle calculated, every blueprint exact, every decision measured. As a forensic architect, someone who investigated building failures and structural collapses for legal cases, he learned that the devil lived in details most people overlooked. That's why the cracks in his marriage to Madeline had been so obvious to everyone but him. 5 years had passed since the Coast Guard pulled her Mercedes from the Pacific. They'd been separated for 6 months before the accident, the divorce nearly finalized. The investigators ruled it suicide. Her note, her depression, the deliberate trajectory off Mulholland Drive. They never found her body, but the ocean had swallowed plenty of secrets before. Now, at 44, Dorian had finally decided to take his first real vacation since her death. His associate, Everett Pratt, had practically forced him onto the plane to Costa Rica. "You need this," Everett had said, his weathered face serious. "You've been a ghost yourself, Dorian. Working 90-hour weeks, sleeping in your office. Madeline's been gone 5 years. It's time to live again." So Dorian had hired Percy Cologne, a 23-year-old grad student recommended by Everett's daughter, to house-sit his Pasadena craftsman. Percy seemed responsible, pre-med, needed the money, had good references. The kid had a key, instructions for the plants, and Dorian's number for emergencies only. Day 3 of paradise, Dorian was finally relaxing on a beach when his phone buzzed. "Percy." "Sir, who's the woman in your guest room?" Dorian's stomach tightened. "What woman?" "I live alone." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then a photo loaded. The woman sat in the antique chair Dorian's grandmother had left him, the one in the guest room he never used. She faced the camera directly, her expression blank, hands folded in her lap. Dark hair, pale skin, those sharp cheekbones. "Percy, she says she's your ex-wife." Dorian's lungs forgot how to work. The phone nearly slipped from his hands. "My ex-wife died 5 years ago." He started to type, but his fingers wouldn't cooperate. He zoomed in on the photo instead, and that's when his heart stopped. The woman wore a platinum necklace with 3 small diamonds arranged in a triangle, the Orion constellation. Dorian had designed it himself, had it custom-made for Madeline's 30th birthday. She'd been wearing it the night she drove off that cliff. The police had included it in the list of her personal effects, supposedly lost in the ocean. But there was catching the afternoon light streaming through his guest room window. He zoomed in further, his hand shaking. On her left wrist, the scar from the childhood bike accident she'd told him about on their 3rd date, shaped like a crescent moon. This was impossible. This was Madeline. Dorian's call to Percy went straight to voicemail. He tried again, and again. On the 4th attempt, a woman answered. "Hello, Dorian." That voice, smoke and honey, exactly as he remembered. "Who is this?" He forced steadiness into his tone, though tourists around him had started to stare. "You know who this is." A pause. "Did you miss me?" "Madeline died 5 years ago. I attended her memorial service." "Did you, though? Or did you just stand in the back for appearances, relieved I was finally gone?" Her voice carried a bitter edge. "You never actually loved me, Dorian. You loved your work, your precious buildings, your reputation. Where's Percy? The boy? He's fine. Locked in your garage. Quite safe. I need to borrow your house for a while. We have unfinished business, you and I." Dorian's mind raced through scenarios, variables, angles. If Madeline was alive, everything he knew was a lie. The suicide, the investigation, the insurance payout he'd donated to mental health charities. But more importantly, if she'd faked her death, she hadn't done it alone. "What do you want?" "I want what was stolen from me. I want what I'm owed." She paused. "Come home, Dorian. Come home and face me. Or I start taking things from you, piece by piece. Starting with this very nice house." The line went dead. Dorian booked the next flight back to LAX, his mind constructing and deconstructing theories. During the layover in Mexico City, he called Everett Pratt. "I need you to pull every file we have on Madeline's death. Everything. The police reports, the Coast Guard investigation, the insurance paperwork." "Dorian, what's going on?" "She's alive, Everett. Madeline's alive, and she's in my house." Silence. Then, That's impossible. I saw her. She's wearing the necklace I gave her. She has Percy locked in my garage. Dorian watched travelers rush past. Someone helped her fake that suicide. Someone with resources, connections, someone who knew how to game the system. You think this was planned? From the beginning? 5 years ago, right before she died? What was happening with my business? He heard Everett shuffling papers. You just won the Riverside Tower contract. $60 million. Your biggest project yet. And Madeline filed for divorce 2 months before that contract was signed. California is a community property state, Everett said slowly. If you'd finalized the divorce, she'd have been entitled to half of everything, including any income from contracts signed during the marriage. But if she died before the divorce was final, she'd get nothing. The assets would stay with you. Everett's voice hardened. Dorian, if she faked her death, that's insurance fraud. Faking a police investigation, possibly conspiracy. But if she's back now, she wants what she thinks I owe her. But Everett, here's what doesn't make sense. Why wait 5 years? Why come back now? Maybe she's broke, or desperate, or Everett stopped. When does the statute of limitations run out on the insurance fraud? 5 years in California. Dorian felt the pieces clicking into place. She waited until she couldn't be prosecuted, but she can still be charged with breaking and entering, kidnapping Percy, which means she doesn't plan to stay alive this time either, Dorian finished. She's not just here for money. This is revenge. Dorian's plane touched down at LAX at 11 p.m. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove to the downtown office he shared with Everett, a converted warehouse in the Arts District. Everett had pulled everything. Folders covering the conference table, his laptop displaying police reports and news articles. At 61, Everett Pratt looked like a retired boxer who discovered reading glasses. Thick-framed spectacles perched on a twice-broken nose. Gray hair buzzed military short. I found something, Everett said without preamble. Look at the timeline. He pointed to a printed calendar. Madeline filed for divorce in March 2020. You won the Riverside contract in April. She died in May. But look at this. He pulled up a bank statement. 2 weeks before her death, she withdrew $80,000 cash from her joint account. Never found. Police assumed she spent it or it was lost. But that's preparation money, Dorian. Money to disappear with. Dorian studied the documents. What about the car? Her Mercedes? Purchased 3 months before her death. Paid in cash. The VIN on the car they pulled from the ocean matched, but Everett's finger moved to another document. The body shop records show she had front-end damage repaired 2 weeks before the suicide. But the car they recovered had no previous damage. She switched the VIN plates. Looks like it. Which means somewhere there's another Mercedes, probably scrapped or sold overseas. Dorian sat back. This level of planning required help. Serious help. Who else knew about the Riverside contract before it went public? You, me, and Vaughn Gregory. The name landed like a stone in still water. Vaughn Gregory, Dorian's former business partner, the man who'd brought the Riverside deal to the table. They dissolved their partnership 6 months before Madeline's death, a bitter separation over Vaughn's gambling debts and reckless business decisions. Vaughn knew Madeline, Dorian said quietly. He met her at our wedding, stayed friendly with her even after the partnership ended. Everett pulled up another file. Vaughn declared bankruptcy 8 months after Madeline's death. Lost his house, his car, everything. But he turned the laptop. 3 years ago, he suddenly rebounds. New car, new office in Century City. Started a construction consulting firm. Where'd he get the money? That's the question, isn't it? Everett leaned forward. Dorian, if Vaughn helped Madeline fake her death, if they were working together, then they planned to come back for the money eventually. But something went wrong. Dorian stood, pacing. Maybe they had a falling out. Maybe Vaughn kept the money. Maybe. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow. Noon. Come to your house alone, or Percy dies. We need to talk about your debt to me. M. Followed by another photo. Percy, bound and gagged in Dorian's garage, looking terrified but unharmed. I need to go in prepared, Dorian said. Everett called Crystal Romero. The private investigator? Best in the city. If Madeline's been alive for 5 years, She's left a trail. Crystal can find it. Dorian checked his watch. And I need to modify my house before tomorrow. Modify it? I'm a forensic architect, Everett. I know exactly how buildings fail. Dorian's smile was cold. Time to engineer one very specific failure. Crystal Romero arrived at Dorian's office at 3 a.m., looking irritated and alert in equal measure. At 36, she'd made her reputation tracking down insurance fraudsters, cheating spouses, and embezzlers. She had short dark hair, sharp eyes, and a reputation for being expensive and worth every penny. Everett said this was urgent, she said, accepting the coffee Dorian offered. He mentioned a ghost. Dorian showed her everything. The photos, the timeline, the evidence of Madeline's planned disappearance. Crystal's expression never changed, but her fingers flew across her tablet, taking notes. You think she's working with Vaughn Gregory? Crystal pulled up her own files. I investigated Vaughn 2 years ago for a different client. He's dirty, but careful. Has connections to offshore accounts, shell companies. The consulting firm is barely legitimate. Can you find where Madeline's been for 5 years? Everyone leaves traces. Credit cards, leases, utilities, medical records. Crystal's tablet lit up with search queries. Give me 12 hours. You have 6. I'm meeting her at noon. Crystal's eyebrow raised. Meeting her? That's necessary. She has my house sit her hostage. But I'm not going in blind. Dorian pulled up blueprints of his house on Everett's computer. I built this place 12 years ago. Every beam, every wire, every pipe. I know it all. And I know exactly how to use it. For the next 3 hours, Dorian explained his plan while Crystal worked her digital magic, and Everett made calls to contacts in the police department, the Coast Guard, and City Hall. By 6 a.m., they had the skeleton of a strategy. By 9 a.m., Crystal had results. Found her, she said, her voice carrying satisfaction. Or rather, found her alias. Naomi Winters, renting a house in Ventura for the last 4 years. Before that, Michelle Blackwell, living in a motel in Santa Barbara for 18 months. Before that, she pulled up a photo. Barbara's General Hospital admission records. Emergency appendectomy, paid in cash, using the name Sarah Chun. The scar, Dorian breathed. She had her appendix removed while she was dead. Gets better. Crystal swiped to bank records. Wire transfers from a shell company called Pacific Consulting Group. $50,000 deposited quarterly into Naomi Winters' account. Guess who owns Pacific Consulting Group? Vaughn Gregory. Through 3 layers of corporations. But yeah, Vaughn's been paying her to stay hidden. Until Crystal frowned. The payment stopped 6 months ago. Last transfer was April. Nothing since. That's why she came back, Everett said. Vaughn cut her off. Dorian stared at the evidence. Or she decided she was tired of waiting. 5 years of hiding, watching me live my life while she had nothing. The statute of limitations runs out. Vaughn stops paying, and she snaps. There's more. Crystal pulled up another file. Vaughn's in trouble. Real trouble. He's into a loan shark named Ray Jackson for $300,000. Former cop, turned enforcer, very dangerous. Payments due next week, and Vaughn doesn't have it. So Vaughn's desperate too, Dorian said. He needs money. Madeline needs money. And they're both looking at me like I'm a bank vault. What's your move? Crystal asked. Dorian checked his watch. 9:47 a.m. I go talk to my dead ex-wife. I get Percy out safely. And then I show them both exactly what happens when you underestimate a man who understands how things break. Dorian arrived at his house at 11:55 a.m., alone, as instructed. The craftsman stood quiet in the midday sun, its cream-colored facade and green shutters giving no hint of the drama inside. He'd lived here alone for 5 years, turning it into a sanctuary of clean lines and careful order. Now it felt contaminated. He knocked on his own front door. Madeline answered. Seeing her in person, alive and solid, sent a jolt through him. She looked different, harder, thinner, her dark hair shorter than he remembered. But those hazel eyes were the same, now filled with cold calculation. Dorian, welcome home. Where's Percy? Still in the garage. Sleeping. I gave him something to help him rest. She stepped aside. Come in. We have so much to catch up on. The interior of his house felt wrong with her in it, like a crime scene before the police tape. Madeline led him to the living room, where she'd set up residence. Her suitcase lay open, clothes scattered across his leather sofa. You've done well for yourself, she said, gesturing around. New furniture, expensive art, that Riverside Tower contract. $60 million. You must be very proud. What do you want, Madeline? What I'm owed. What you stole from me. Her voice sharpened. We were married when you won that contract. I'm entitled to half of everything you earned from it. $30 million. You died before the divorce was final. You're entitled to nothing. Except I didn't die. She smiled. I'm here, Dorian. Very much alive. And I have a lawyer ready to file a claim the moment I walk into court. All I have to do is prove my identity. You faked your death. That's insurance fraud. Conspiracy. Filing a false police report. You'll go to prison. Statute of limitations expired last month. They can't touch me. She sat down, crossing her legs. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to write me a check for $30 million. In exchange, I disappear again. Forever this time. You'll never hear from me. And if I refuse, then I take you to court, drag your name through the mud, and take everything anyway. Plus, I'll tell the police about the bodies. The room temperature seemed to drop. What bodies? The Riverside Tower collapse. Madeline's smile widened. The one last year. 3 workers died because of faulty structural calculations. Your calculations, Dorian. I have the original blueprints, the ones you modified before submitting to the city. The ones that show you knew those support beams were inadequate. Dorian's blood turned to ice. The Riverside incident had been a tragedy, a partial collapse during construction that killed 3 men. He'd been investigated and cleared, the official cause attributed to contractor error and bad weather. But Madeline was claiming she had evidence of his negligence. I never modified those plans. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what I can prove. She pulled a folder from her bag, slid it across the coffee table. Original blueprints, with your signature and date stamps. Your handwriting on the modifications. I've had them appraised by experts. They'll hold up in court. Dorian didn't touch the folder. Where'd you get those? Vaughn gave them to me, before things went bad between us. She leaned back. He's very thorough, Vaughn. Very prepared. Together, we made quite a team. Until he cut you off. Madeline's expression flickered. I see you've been doing your homework. He stopped paying you 6 months ago. Why? Because he's a greedy bastard who wanted all the money for himself. Her mask cracked, showing anger beneath. We had a deal. He helped me disappear. I stayed hidden, and when the time was right, we'd come back together and take what you owed us. But Vaughn got impatient. Started gambling again. Got himself into debt. Ray Jackson has him by the throat. So you came back alone? I came back to get what's mine. With or without Vaughn. She stood. You have until tomorrow morning. $30 million transferred to this account. She handed him a card. Or those blueprints go to the police, the victims' families, and every news outlet in California. Let Percy go first. When I have the money. Now. Dorian's voice hardened. I'll give you $10 million right now, if you release Percy. The rest tomorrow. Madeline considered this. $10 million immediately? You have that liquid. I can wire it in an hour. Fine. She pulled out her phone. But Dorian, don't try anything stupid. Those blueprints have been distributed to multiple locations. If anything happens to me, they go public automatically. I just want Percy safe. Then we have a deal. Dorian made the wire transfer from his phone. $10 million to an account in the Cayman Islands. Madeline verified it, then led him to the garage. Percy was there, bound but unharmed, conscious but groggy. Dorian helped the young man to his feet. Call an Uber, Dorian told Percy quietly. Go to Everett Pratt's office. Tell him the foundation is secure. He'll know what to do. Percy nodded, stumbled out. Dorian watched until he was safely in a car, then turned back to Madeline. Satisfied? She asked. I need to see those blueprints. If I'm paying $30 million, I want to know what I'm buying. Smart. Madeline returned to the living room, opened the folder. Dorian studied the documents carefully. They were good forgeries, his signature, his handwriting, even his typical notation style. But they were still forgeries. He could see the tells, slight variation in ink density, microscopic differences in pressure, the wrong type of paper for 2020. Whoever made these was skilled, but not perfect. Who forged these? He asked. You? Vaughn. Does it matter? They'll fool a jury. Actually, they won't. Dorian set them down. Because I know something you don't. Oh, those support beams in the Riverside Tower? I didn't design them. Vaughn did. Dorian pulled up files on his phone. When we dissolved our partnership, part of the agreement was that I'd get the Riverside contract, but Vaughn would handle the structural engineering for the lower levels. It's all in the contract, all documented. If those beams fail because of bad calculations, that's Vaughn's responsibility, not mine. Madeline's face went pale. You didn't know that, did you? Dorian continued. Vaughn told you I was responsible, gave you forged documents, probably promised you could blackmail me. But he set you up, Madeline. If you take those blueprints public, they'll trace them back to Vaughn. He'll go to prison for forgery, fraud, and negligent homicide. You're lying. Call your lawyer. Check the partnership dissolution documents. They're public record. Dorian watched her pull out her phone with shaking hands. Vaughn was using you as a weapon against me, but he made you the liability. If you go to court, you destroy him, not me. Madeline stared at her phone, her face cycling through disbelief, rage, and fear. That son of a bitch. That goddamn son of a bitch. He needed you to go away and stay away, Dorian said. But he also needed leverage over you, insurance that you wouldn't come after him for a bigger cut. These blueprints? They implicate you too. Your signature is on the custody chain. If anyone investigates, you're an accomplice. I'll tell them it was all Vaughn. Who's going to believe you? The woman who faked her death and hid for 5 years. Dorian sat down. Face it, Madeline. Vaughn played you, just like you tried to play me. She sank onto the sofa, the fight draining out of her. For a moment, she looked like the woman he'd married. Vulnerable, lost, human. Then her eyes hardened again. What do you want? The truth. All of it. Why'd you fake your death? When did you and Vaughn start planning this? Madeline laughed bitterly. You really don't know? God, Dorian, you were so buried in your work, you never saw it. Vaughn and I started our affair 2 years before your partnership ended. Before you won the Riverside contract. The words hit like a physical blow. You cheated on me with my business partner. You were cheating on me with your blueprints and your calculations and your perfect buildings. At least Vaughn paid attention to me. She looked away. When you and Vaughn dissolved the partnership, he came to me with a plan. I'd file for divorce, drag it out, and then die before it was finalized. You'd keep the money, feel guilty, donate some to charity to ease your conscience. Meanwhile, Vaughn and I would disappear, start over somewhere new with the money he'd hidden from the partnership. But he never planned to go with you. No, he kept me on a leash, pay me just enough to stay quiet, promising we'd be together once things cooled down. But he was gambling again, borrowing from Ray Jackson, burning through the money. Her voice cracked. 5 years I waited. 5 years in cheap rentals and cheaper motels, dyeing my hair, using fake names, watching from a distance while you lived my life. You did this to yourself. Maybe, but you're not innocent either, Dorian. You're cold. You're obsessed with your work. The front door exploded inward. 2 men rushed in, one tall and lean with graying temples, the other built like a concrete wall with dead eyes. Dorian recognized them from Crystal's files, Vaughn Gregory and Ray Jackson. Vaughn held a gun. Well, isn't this cozy? Vaughn said, pointing the gun at Dorian. The happy couple reunited. Madeline jumped to her feet. Vaughn, what the hell are you doing here? Protecting my investment. Vaughn moved further into the room, Ray Jackson flanking him. You think I wouldn't monitor that Cayman account? $10 million just appeared. I got curious. That money is mine, Madeline hissed. Everything is mine. The plans, the money, you. Vaughn's handsome face twisted into something ugly. I own you, Maddie. I've always owned you. You're the dead woman who came back to life. Literally the perfect puppet. Invisible, deniable, trapped. Ray Jackson spoke for the first time, his voice like gravel. Vaughn. The money. Right. Vaughn gestured with the gun. Here's how this works. Dorian transfers everything, all 30 million, into my account. Then we clean up our loose ends. Loose ends? Dorian remained seated, projecting calm he didn't feel. You and Maddie both. Sorry, but you become liabilities. Maddie came back too soon, got too greedy. And you? He pointed the gun at Dorian's chest. You're too smart. You've already figured out too much. Can't risk you going to the cops. I'm not going to the cops. No, you're not. Because you'll be dead. Vaughn smiled. Murder-suicide. Dorian's ex-wife returns from the dead. He snaps, kills her, kills himself. Very tragic, very believable, and very convenient. Madeline backed toward the kitchen. Vaughn, we can work this out. Stay where you are. Vaughn swung the gun toward her. Ray, secure her. Ray Jackson moved with surprising speed, grabbing Madeline's arm and forcing her down into a chair. She struggled, but the man was immovable. You're insane, she spat. You can't kill both of us and make it look like suicide. Sure I can. Dorian's been under stress. The Riverside investigation. His ex-wife mysteriously returning. He was volatile, unstable. It'll sell. Vaughn turned to Dorian. Phone. Now. Make the transfer. Dorian pulled out his phone slowly. The account number? Vaughn rattled it off. Dorian's fingers moved across the screen, his mind racing. Everett and Crystal knew his plan, knew he was meeting Madeline. Percy had escaped with the code phrase. The trap was set. He just needed to survive long enough to spring it. Done, Dorian said, showing Vaughn the confirmation screen. Vaughn checked his own phone, his eyes lighting up. 30 million. Beautiful. He looked at Ray. We're good. Do it. Ray pulled out his own gun, pointing it at Madeline. Sorry, lady. Nothing personal. Wait. Dorian stood. You're making a mistake. Really? How's that? Ray Jackson, right? Former LAPD, turned loan shark. You're here because Vaughn owes you $300,000. Dorian kept his voice steady. But Vaughn just got 30 million. What makes you think he's going to pay you? Ray's eyes flickered toward Vaughn. Don't listen to him, Vaughn said quickly. Ray, we have a deal. Do you? Dorian pressed. Or is Ray another loose end? After all, he's witnessed you committing murder. He knows about the fraud, the forgeries, all of it. The moment you don't need him anymore, you'll cut him loose. Just like you did with Madeline. Ray's gun shifted slightly, now pointed between Dorian and Vaughn. Ray, I'm offering you $300,000 to kill them both, Vaughn said. That's our deal. But I'm offering you $10 million to kill him, Dorian countered. And all the evidence I've compiled on Vaughn's crimes. Everything he's done. You turn him over to the police, you're a hero. Plus, you get the reward money from the insurance companies for solving Madeline's fake death. He's lying. Vaughn swung his gun toward Dorian, finger tightening on the trigger. The lights went out. The darkness was absolute. Dorian had designed it that way. Blackout curtains on every window, no ambient light, no emergency LEDs. He'd spent the night before installing wireless relays on his electrical panel, tying them to an app on his phone. One tap, and the whole house went dark. Gunshots exploded in the blackness. Vaughn firing blind, screaming. Ray Jackson shouting. Madeline crying out. Dorian dropped and rolled, his hands finding the edge of the sofa, his mental map of the room perfect. He'd lived here for 12 years, walked these floors in darkness countless times. He knew every step, every obstacle, every corner. Vaughn didn't. More shots. Breaking glass. Dorian heard someone fall. Heavy, probably Ray. He crawled toward the kitchen, toward the drawer where he'd left a flashlight and something more useful. Lights. Vaughn screamed. Turn on the fucking lights. Dorian reached the kitchen, found the drawer by touch, grabbed the flashlight and the nail gun he'd placed there this morning. Industrial strength, the kind used in construction, loaded with 3-inch galvanized nails. He clicked on the flashlight, aimed it at Vaughn's face. Vaughn spun, bringing up his gun, but Dorian fired first. The nail gun popped, compressed air and projectile, and Vaughn screamed, his gun hand erupting in blood as a nail pierced through his palm. The gun clattered to the floor. Dorian kicked it away, then swept the flashlight around the room. Ray Jackson was on the floor, unconscious, a bleeding wound on his head where he'd apparently run into the sharp corner of Dorian's slate coffee table. Madeline was pressed against the wall, her eyes wide with terror. Vaughn cradled his ruined hand, whimpering, "You shot me. You fucking shot me. That's a nail gun, not a gun. Dorian kept the light on Vaughn. Important distinction for the police report. I'm just a homeowner defending myself with construction equipment. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Vaughn started. Percy went to Everett's office with a code phrase. Everett called Crystal. Crystal called the police. Dorian picked up Vaughn's gun carefully, using his shirt to avoid fingerprints. Everything that happened here was recorded, audio and video. I installed cameras in every room last night, small, hidden, streaming to a cloud server. Every word you said, every threat you made, every confession, all recorded. Vaughn's face went ashen. The police are getting anonymous tips right now, Dorian continued. About your shell companies, your offshore accounts, the forged blueprints, Ray Jackson's loan sharking operation, and Madeline's fake death. By tomorrow, every agency from the FBI to the IRS will be tearing your life apart. You can't. I already did. Dorian looked at Madeline. You're going to prison too. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted extortion. But you might get a deal if you testify against Vaughn. I want a lawyer, Madeline whispered. Smart choice. The police burst through the front door, flashlights and guns sweeping the room. Dorian carefully set down the nail gun, raised his hands. I'm the homeowner, he called out. Dorian Martin, these three broke into my house. The man on the floor is Ray Jackson, wanted for loan sharking. The man with the injured hand is Vaughn Gregory. He has $30 million of stolen money that just appeared in his offshore account, and he's holding a gun illegally. The woman is Madeline Martin, my supposedly dead ex-wife who faked her death 5 years ago. The lead officer, a woman with sergeant stripes, looked at him like he'd grown a second head. Sir, we're going to need you to explain that again. Slowly. I have everything documented. Video, audio, financial records, witness statements. Dorian lowered his hands as more officers secured the scene. But I'm going to need my lawyer present for the full statement. Your lawyer? Everett Pratt. He's on his way. The legal proceedings took 6 months. Vaughn Gregory pleaded guilty to fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder, and 24 other charges. He got 25 years in a federal prison. Ray Jackson took a deal, testifying against Vaughn in exchange for reduced time. 15 years. Madeline Martin's case was more complicated. She'd faked her death, yes, but a skilled defense attorney argued she'd been coerced and manipulated by Vaughn. The jury split on intent. She ended up with 8 years, eligible for parole in 5. The $30 million Vaughn had stolen was recovered and returned to Dorian. He donated $10 million to the families of the men who died in the Riverside collapse, not because he was legally liable, but because it was right. He put another $5 million into a foundation for structural safety research. The remaining $15 million, he kept it, invested it, and used the returns to expand his forensic architecture firm. Business was good. Turned out, when you publicly outwit a conspiracy and survive an assassination attempt, people trust you to solve their complex problems. Percy Cologne got a full-ride scholarship to medical school, courtesy of an anonymous donation. He never knew it came from Dorian. Crystal Romero got a bonus that bought her a new car and a down payment on a house in Silver Lake. She and Dorian stayed in touch, occasionally working cases together. Everett Pratt retired at 63, spending his days reading detective novels and annoying his grandchildren. He and Dorian had lunch every Thursday. On the anniversary of Madeline's arrest, Dorian stood in his rebuilt living room. He'd renovated after the shooting. New furniture, new paint, new memories. The house felt clean again. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You ruined my life. M. He deleted it without responding. Another text came through, this one from Everett. Lunch spots still good for Thursday? Dorian smiled. Absolutely. I'll bring the blueprints for your beach house. You're really designing me a beach house? You earned it. Besides, I need a project that won't try to kill me. He poured himself a whiskey, Pappy Van Winkle, the good stuff, and stepped on his back patio. The Pasadena evening was cool, the San Gabriel Mountains dark against the twilight sky. 5 years ago, he'd been a shell of himself, haunted by ghosts and guilt. Now he was whole again, stronger for having been broken and rebuilt. Architecture taught you that pressure revealed weaknesses, but it also taught you that the strongest structures were those that had been stress-tested, reinforced, and rebuilt with purpose. Dorian Martin had been stress-tested. He'd found his weaknesses: trust, isolation, obsession with work at the expense of life. He'd reinforced them with friendship, vigilance, and balance. And he'd rebuilt himself into something stronger than before. His phone buzzed again. "Crystal, got a new case. Might need a forensic architect. Interested?" He typed back, "Always. But no ex-wives this time. Can't promise that, but I can promise it'll be interesting." Dorian laughed, drained his whiskey, and walked back inside. The house was quiet, peaceful. The ghost in the guest room was gone, exorcised by truth and justice and a nail gun. Tomorrow would bring new problems, new mysteries, new structures to analyze, and people to outwit. But tonight, Dorian Martin was home, alive, and victorious. And that was enough. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.